So we're streaming the meeting right now. But we haven't started the meeting yet. And Shannon Eilis is sick today.
Okay. No Kevin, huh? He's normally right. He's early. He's early bird.
Kevin, I'm not sure if he's, he may not be here. Oh, that was another thing I need to invite. You're in person? Well, who do we have here? No, I'm just kidding. So you want to invite? I don't know if Councilor Groner is coming because Councilor Boddington is not, but and then we have and
How's it going? Wow.
Community Development Director Steve Coper is staying home, is has a personal, is not gonna be here tonight. Okay. I think he had a birthday.
It's more important than this.
Well, yeah. I think it might have been so. Yeah. Okay. But Darren here. Lancy's in here. So Shannon Islands, we have Russell. Let's see if I can find Kevin, Christy. Wait a minute. Lance by referral is your email?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yes. I don't know if you heard me or not.
Reaction.
I'm good. How are you? I. 4, 5. Oh, and Councilor Waddington is online,
Hey.
it looks like.
Yep.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good, good.
How'd you sneak in? I mean, you came in from.
Yeah. Sneak out.
Through the barriers.
Linn, Christie respond?
No, she hasn't responded.
She was going to be virtual as well. I'm seeing if she needs the link right now.
Jerry,
Yes, ma'am.
see, this is what I have.
Okay. Lance, did you get, no, we'll deal with it later. Okay, sounds good.
Well, we don't, I guess the only one we're waiting for is Christie, but we can, I mean, it's up to you if you want to get started.
Yeah, we can get started when Shannon comes back in the room in a minute. Okay, let's roll. Call the meeting to order. 6:01. In the bulletin room.
Christie's here.
Christie's here. Hi, Christie.
Hey, sorry guys, my husband's out of town tonight, so I'm solo parenting.
I'll kick us off. Roll here. Committee member and chair Jared Dean is here.
Should we work ready?
Here you go.
Very
Take
well.
us.
Jared Wise.
Lynn Schroeder, EDC liaison.
Jen and I remember.
Williams member.
Lance Weiner, committee member.
Kevin Bonington, City Council.
Christy Lawns, secretary.
Okay.
All right, the first item is public comments. We will or will not have the counselor joining us today, not Kevin.
Counselor Groner asked to attend the meeting remotely and speak, but I do not see him in the meeting, so
Indeed.
he may come in later.
And Darren, I know you've got an agenda item. Victoria, do you want to start with any comments that I think Great, I know we've got a full agenda as far as Darren diving into some of these issues that you want us to consult on and talk about today. And so I'll let you, if you're prepared to, kick us off with an agenda. I would ask, if you don't mind, maybe for Lance and Shuri, can you talk about real quick for a minute how this committee was involved earlier on? Because they're seeing us come in at the end, right? And it's done a lot of the work, and was this committee involved earlier on? Is this really great? And how, I don't think you were running point on it at that time, but right, do you have any idea or about how we were involved, or were we involved?
My recollection is Shannon probably can fill in some of the gaps. My recollection is that the EDC was the one who brought forward the idea of looking at zoning along Highway 43. 2017, 2018, somewhere back in there. It's been a while ago. It got put on the planning docket. And it wasn't until council provided funding for us to hire a consulting team that we really got moving on it. So it's just been kicked off in the last 3 years or so.
Okay.
There was a working group, I believe EDC member on the working group, probably. Yeah. So the rest of the group, the working group was sort of the point. I made contact on the project to look at all the materials that were being sent through. I know Assessor Chris gave to the EDC and get updates. Not sure if any of them were really working meetings or not, but that's my understanding of the EDC's engagement in the project. Lynn, Lynn's got something to add.
I do believe that Chris did, when he was project manager, that he came in and gave several updates and briefings along the way. I don't have all the dates for them, but I think there were probably at least 2 or 3, at least 3 that he came back and discussed it here. I mean, he was EDC liaison, so I understand it was frequently a topic on the agenda.
Do you have anything you can add to that, just being on that committee? I think the question is, how involved was the committee, or what was the opportunity to be involved on earlier on in this everything? With Vision 43.
So I volunteered to be the PC liaison, but then something happened and somebody else went.
I don't think anyone else needed to see.
And the feedback that I got was I wanted extra people instead.
Yeah, I remember Chris was really trying to involve more people who are not normally involved. This was kind of that when it came to CCI about the working group specifically. It was all about trying to get people who had a stake but aren't normally engaged. So it might have been, I
think I got replaced.
So you weren't replaced. I thought you were on the
I
line.
went to some of the meetings, but I wasn't for the 43 reason.
Oh. Okay, now I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I asked about it. And they said they wanted to involve other people that aren't normally involved. So I went to some of the meetings, but it was just more of a, like I said, community member.
Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to get an idea for me too, because I've only been on the committee for less than a year of what our involvement was like early on.
Yeah.
We could have screened for more, I'm sure, yeah. One or two, probably. All right, thanks, Darren. Let me take this.
Yeah, but I mean, the original thought, reason why we were fighting hard to get it on the docket was because we lack commercial land, but even the lack of supply that drives up prices. The rents are really high. But we could get supply and have more commercial spaces and do drive rents down a little bit.
Everything's down, increased community usability. I was already very interested. Yeah. Corridor for commuting. Corridor for stopping and shopping versus driving.
And just so that the whole, I mean, I know that it's changed now that the second phase was eliminated too, but the idea was to disjoin it, right? So you have, start with like market of choice. So you have this nice commercial area, and then you got this big stretch of residential, and then you have Robinwood. You know, disjoin, so was more to make it more continuous. Like you see most of the time, you see a high like 799, for instance. It's a full commercial district. Once.
On the checkerboard reviews.
Yes.
We stalled just long enough for Councilman Groner to pop up on the screen. Put his videos off, and so give him a minute. See if he's down low.
Oh, yeah, okay. Hello, Councilor Groner, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Glad you're here, okay. Can I put you on mute, or do you want to stay unmuted?
You can put me on mute.
Okay. And you can unmute yourself at any time, but we don't, sometimes feedback is hard.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilor, this is Jared, Chair of the committee, and you actually showed up just in time before Darren got into his part of the agenda. So if you have anything you'd like to talk about or share today, now is a great time.
Do you have anything to share, Councilor Groner?
No, I'm mostly here to listen, but I might have a question at some point.
Okay.
I didn't hear what he said.
We didn't hear it that.
He said he might have a question. I'll just listen for now. He
Okay,
might have a
great.
question.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thanks, Shannon. No.
finally, I had set years for like 4 weeks.
Darren, how would you, I have thoughts on how one way this could go. It looks like maybe you printed out what I had sent to Lynn from Shuri. Thank you for creating that document. That kind of helps us track the pros and cons of each item. Do you have a thought on how you want this to go today?
No, I thought we would just follow the document that was sent out to everybody. And I think that seems like the most efficient way to go about it. Can you scribble some notes here?
All right, so I'm going to do my best to keep us on track to the agenda and get through each item. And I don't think necessarily brevity is important today with the amount of people we have in the room, but it feels like it becomes an issue. I'll try to speak up and point us in the right direction. Okay, so the first item on the document, well, let me ask this. Does anyone not know what I'm talking about? There was a document sent out, a Word document today. Or not today, sorry. When Lynn sent out everything.
I'll make some copies.
Great,
I
thank
don't
you.
remember seeing.
Okay. Make some copies and we'll have it.
This one is late from the agenda.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, she's already gonna make some copies. All right, so the first topic on this document, everyone will have a copy of here shortly, is just talking about the areas for rezoning. And focus area one is the Hidden Springs Walmart area. And so I want to open that one up for thoughts as far as pros and cons. Thoughts, questions regarding the Hidden Springs Walmart area rezoning. And maybe Darren, this is a good opportunity for you to just quickly summarize the rezoning, a 1 minute, the 30-second hit on the rezoning for that area.
So all three focus areas, the intention would be they would all get rezoned with the same mixed use zoning. So all of you probably know the general commercial zoning that is most of the corridor. There's a couple of properties that are office, business, commercial, and then there's a few residential properties down by closest to the market of choice area. They're residential, but being used as commercial. But yeah, the intent would be to create a new mixed use zone. The general commercial zone already is a mixed use zone. You can do housing or commercial. Obviously hasn't operated in that manner, as there is such construction on the drive, as far as I know, that has that configuration. So the intent was to take out some of the barriers that are in that general commercial zone, create a new zone that has more flexibility that could potentially spur some development of properties or redevelopment of properties that would have more of that living residential over commercial that we don't see along. And again, the intent would be provide flexibility and remove barriers. I'll just throw out there the immediate barrier I ran into when I started working here 10 years ago was there's 50% lot coverage maximum in the general commercial stuff. So it essentially eliminates the ability to do something large and then maybe park it underground or find a creative way to develop a site. So removing barriers such as 50% max lot coverage, right? That's a simple one to get rid of. And then there's a bunch of different design standards in that design standards chapter that all commercial development has to comply with. So removing some of the more onerous design standards the equation, again, maybe help make pencil out for regional. So that was the intent as we moved into the project. It's really creating a flexible zone for people to utilize the flexibility to make things happen.
So if somebody wanted to put housing on top of what Round Table was, I don't know the name of the new restaurant that went in there. Would that be allowed?
Currently? Yes.
With the, oh, currently it would be allowed.
So the issue I have with this focus area is the topography difference.
Mhm.
So if you're on the Walmart side, it's really high. And so if you allow 5 stories, that would be significant. I mean, we don't have anything at all that high anywhere in West Linn, and build up on a bill like that. The consequence to residents, if you're on the other side, 43, where you're down kind of street level, to me, it's very different than if you're up on the side where the topography is just so much higher. And I was looking at the commentating surveys. And one of the big one is the whole transportation issue, 43 and Commuter Street. And you don't have, it already stacks up at different times of the day. So adding, let's say I wanted to put 100 units on top of that restaurant, the thought of that coming onto Hidden Spring, which is already, it's pretty stacked certain times of the day. So again, it's not so much the area of rezoning, it's the side of the street to me that in that location by Walmart, down to where that, I think last time, what it's called, Shannon, where the sourdough, like it's so much higher up that if you actually were able to redevelop that into something that's 5 stories, it would be very, it would not blend in at all. So that's my issue, but you know, you have up here and you have down here and you have.
So my issue from a zoning standpoint would be typically mixed use is lighter uses, right? To kind of buffer the commercial areas. So if you change the code, the mixed use code to allow things like a grocery store, which normally wouldn't be in a mixed use, like how do you do that without now allowing these big type of high traffic things in another mixed use zone if you change it to mixed use? I feel like it would be better to leave it as commercial and change the commercial code for property coverage and all that kind of stuff instead, so that you keep mixed use for what it's really intended to be, which is lighter, lower traffic, you know, a buffer between the commercial and residential areas.
I don't know that mixed use is supposed to be a lighter use. I mean, it's just,
Typically, when we did that, when we redid that mixed use code, whatever that was for,
that was very site specific.
yeah, but that's the only mixed use code we really have, right?
Right. If
So-
you go to any other community around here, they have big anchor stores on the ground floor with residential above. That's mixed use.
Right, I understand that. But what I'm saying is our mixed use currently, the way it's coded is that those lighter use stuff are the mixed use. So I'm saying, how does that affect other, if our mixed codes open up and say that you can have a high traffic grocery store or hotel or whatever, does that affect other areas of the city that are mixed use that you now have no mixed use buffer that we have now that prevents those type of things going into the other parts of the area? You know what I'm saying?
It would be zone specific.
Yeah, the code is specifically for Highway 43. It's not taking our other mixed use code and putting it in. It's a whole new.
I understand, but I know how developers work and like try to skirt stuff and stuff. So if you're saying, well, if you allow this here, why can't you do this here? So I feel like it's personally better to leave it as commercial and change the commercial requirements, because we don't have very many other commercial zones that would be affected really either. So
So you're saying it's a slippery slope in a couple.
I feel like it's a slippery slope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Because it's already allowing commercial. I mean, you already can do mixed use in commercial. So I don't know how calling it mixed use thing. Other
They've
than,
been successful,
Well,
also like the HRD,
Yeah,
separate
sorry.
just.
So just, yeah, so just, good point. So just for context, right? We're proposing this along Highway 43, but like downtown Willamette is general commercial, where we're sitting is general commercial. So if we just change the general commercial zoning code, it would apply in downtown Willamette and up here. We're trying to keep it focused just on, the intent was to focus on 43. And not just do a general commercial zone change would impact downtown Willamette too.
so could you just do it as like the same thing you do as there with the 43 overlay zone?
Well, it's essentially what it is, yes. Yeah,
I mean, you're just parsing words.
yeah, you can do it as an overlay zone or a zone change. And went down the pathway of zone change.
Because I think when we originally talked about this, and even with Chris on phase 2, talked about having your high commercial stuff on 43, and then maybe like a couple houses, a block or two behind it, or, on those side streets, maybe 1 or 2 houses there having mixed use, true mixed use, where it's just, lighter thing
Yeah,
to
so-
buffer. So then I think if you make it all mixed use, then you have this in the future, when you go to try to make those extra properties to get more mixed use, you don't have a mixed use. So that's fine.
Well, let's clarify that mixed use isn't lighter, so that's kind of taking us down the wrong path.
I don't know, that's not true, because when I did a lot of the research for when we did that thing, mixed use is kind of used as a buffer from the high traffic things.
It doesn't have to be.
It can be.
Right,
it's not-
but that's what I'm saying,
That's
like,
not the purpose of it. The
Right.
purpose of it is to be a commercial zone that allows,
It's because it allows housing, that
Yeah,
mixed.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do anything with the size of the actual, like, the grocery store. You don't have a lot of property right now to do this. So it's not as though something large can even come in that location unless a lot of people start selling a lot of stuff. Which, as you know, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen extremely slowly. So, yeah, it's more of just allowing that housing to happen. And as long as the criteria, again, like it was spoken, to make sure that that's up against the sidewalk, not up against the back of the hill, is helpful. And in that program also talks about the slowing down of the streets, putting in the stoplights and things like that, widening the road so it's a little bit easier. For those folks that want to come off, as opposed to everybody just backing up in there.
Backing up on Hidden Springs, is that 43 is controlled by that. Stoplights are not, I don't think the city has any.
We don't have,
No, but you could add that, you could, as your part of your plan,
no, because we can't control it at all.
Request.
We can request, but we don't, we
typically,
can't actually do it.
typically as you see it, once they see what you're doing,
So
it takes a little bit of time, but it's actually very doable.
All right, well, that's a whole nother.
that's a whole other conversation. Okay, what if,
There is a plan to fix the Hidden Springs intersection.
Sure.
Okay.
could we call it commercial mixed use?
Well, it doesn't matter what we call it.
Yeah, we can
It's
call
what
it.
is in the code.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, is just because I just envision a future where we do what we were originally planning with Chris on the phase 2, where you start adding these light uses behind the
That would
properties.
probably be an entirely different. It wouldn't be,
Yeah.
whatever is general commercial right now already allows restaurants, grocery stores, hotels, motels, residential above those uses. And our intent is to maintain that, right, in the general commercial zone. We don't want to downzone anybody. But make it more flexible for them to actually do something. Again, a conversation we've been having for a long time is how many properties along 43 are big enough to actually redevelop? Where we pencil out. So we need to figure out which ones are available, and those are maybe the ones that accept the height. The other ones that are more surrounded by residential, like you're saying, we don't do the height increase. And they just sort of keep functioning as they are until someone figures out if they can make it. There's a lot of factors that go into when someone decides to redevelop a property. And, you know, the zoning code is a big part of it, right? Being able to do what you want to do and have some flexibility, but also just trees themselves are the limiting factor. So yeah, the intent was to create a flexible code to try to spur something we have on Highway 33. Not make it just be a pass-through corridor, people wanting to stop and shop. Eat.
If the
And
concern,
big amenities for the neighboring neighborhoods to be able to safely walk and bike up to the corridor.
Go ahead, Lance.
if the concern is like big box stores coming in, doesn't that have to go through a conditional use anyway? Like if you're Shannon, you're concerned about like bigger stores coming in, don't you have to go through that? I mean, mixed use is typically used for smaller retail shops, cafes, salons, and things like that. I don't see a big box store coming in and sweeping through a mixed use. They would have to go through. They have to go through hoops in order to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe right now a grocery store is a permitted use in the general commercial zone.
Yeah,
Walmart.
big box stores can go in on 43 right now.
I'm saying mixed use. Sorry.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I feel like it's a little misleading because he thinks of it the same way as I do.
Gotcha.
That makes sense, though, what they're saying makes sense. I heard you too. I just want to make sure. It makes sense at least what I'm saying here.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the question is, do you all think we should limit the size of a commercial use? Because if you do, that's just another barrier, right?
No, I don't think you should, on 43, I don't think you should. The size.
Then you want to control the square footage?
No, I just don't like, I think if we said it was commercial mixed use, I think the name mixed use is,
We haven't even named it yet. We're just calling it mixed use.
Okay.
Right?
if you name it like commercial mixed use. That's one thing.
Right.
Because I think if you, it
Write down.
it makes
what
you think that it's,
and you can talk.
that it's low traffic thing if it's more of a buffer zone than a commercial.
That only happens if it's actually written in the code. I mean, we could call
Right, I
it
know.
strawberries and potatoes.
But I think
it
if you
has to
say,
reflect-
that's, see, like both Lance and I have thought, you saying mixed use was different than. So that's why I'm saying, how you word it is how people are going to just naturally instinctively think it. When you're selling it to the public.
Christy, do you have any questions on any of the zoning items, issues that we're talking about? Any thoughts you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, I'm just sort of thinking about the sort of things that we have in those zones now. For instance, we've got a grocery store currently with the Walmart neighborhood market. It's one of the only grocery stores that we have in that area. So, I mean, I do think whatever we do, we want to make sure that we're not limiting our ability if something else were to go in to have, a Trader Joe's in the future, or something like that. Because I think that's really important. But I also wouldn't want to see. Well, it doesn't really matter because you couldn't fit a Costco or something like that in there no matter what. So, but yeah, big box stores, I think you still want to be able to have access to that stuff. I guess my issue is I think that the three different focus areas are all kind of so different. And I guess my question would be, are they all being approached in the same way?
So that's a discussion we're still having around specifically like height, right?
Yeah.
Do all the properties in those focus areas have the same height limitations or height maximums and minimums? Or do we approach them differently based on their location, as you're saying, you know, the topography of the sites? And we're still working through that. We've been talking with the development community a lot around this code, and they've given us good feedback. So, you know, we're hoping to take feedback from the EC, from the development community, and other folks that we're talking to try to take what we've draft code that you've been looking at, try to really refine it into something that we're confident that when we get it into the legislative process, that we're not going to get a huge backlash. Right?
For sure.
We can
Yeah.
kind of make everyone comfortable with where we land. So yeah, I don't think that has been determined quite yet, Christy.
Yeah, I think that was kind of, as you know, I've got to go to the open house, and I think the vision is really beautiful. I think it's exciting, but I do think it would be important to really look at all three focus areas and make sure that, you know, if you have a blanket code for all three, you're going to end up with some areas where it's not, you know, you've got really big, tall buildings in an area where it doesn't belong, or it just doesn't fit in with the topography, or does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I brought that up in one of the meetings that I went to, just as a, like, where my building is. It's not in the part we're discussing now, or in Spring with the Bolton fire. We were saying, if we're to put retail up against the sidewalk, as on the A Street side, there's very little access because of the restrictions on Highway 43. For example, there's a duplex that's next to my building. Somebody bought that and developed and put retail all the way to the sidewalk on Highway 43. It would be almost impossible to get to as a pedestrian. So I just brought up the topography of that part is going to be different than, say, the Walmart. Yeah, I don't think the 5-story restriction is unreasonable. That seems you're going to entice people to come in right there because of the hill 5 stories. They're going to still make it houses. They're going to be facing the way that it's got a view. Right into these backyard.
And height is probably a hot topic.
The developers explained why it was necessary for those heights, only because again, if you don't have those particular heights, the developer isn't going to want to come in and do it. It has to actually be attractive for those businesses to actually come into it.
The economy of scale.
Yeah, so it was their
If you don't get
recommendation.
so many units per footprint, then it doesn't make fiscal sense for them to develop it.
But you do have a lot of residents that use there.
Right.
Again, that,
You know,
Yeah. And Darren, are you looking for feedback from us on the zones? Like Christy's saying, every zone should be different, which I think, you know, sounds like that's great. She's right. Are you looking for us to give you feedback on differences in the zones today?
Yes, whatever feedback.
Christy, if you want to be more specific about that, I don't know if you're able to or prepared to. This is appropriate.
Well, and like full disclosure, I actually live at the end of Buck Street. So focus area number 2 is very close to where I live. So I'm sure that, you know, in some ways it clouds my opinion, but it also gives me a little bit of insight into the neighborhood as well. So for me, I would love to see in that area, I would love to see, you know, little smaller shops at the bottom floor going in. And then making sure that I think in this area, you really don't want to have just apartments go up, because if that were to happen, this whole neighborhood would just, there's not enough parking. And the houses behind there, a lot of them are historic. They don't have garages. And so people rely on street parking. And so I do think that putting something in that has, you know, too many units for, where parking is needed, even though you can't have a minimum parking there. Zoning for that will, and that if that were to happen, it would make things, just not as nice in this neighborhood. So just trying to put something in that is, beneficial to everyone in the neighborhood and still kind of forward looking. I don't want to be a NIMBY, right? But I just think because it's a tiny, that Bolton Plaza is a very small area. And I do think it should be looked at differently than maybe the Walmart area, if that makes any sense.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, my only comment is that I don't think on the Walmart side, the height should be consistent with what you would allow at a fire station or at, in that area. I just think the topography is just too different. What's really hard for me is that you have a big puzzle and this is a piece. And without knowing that, because I think Shannon brought it up last time, the sign code, the transportation piece, the impacts, because again, that came out a lot in the surveys in regards to 43 is just a mess when it comes to traffic. A lot of emphasis on, yeah, we love the bike. We love a bike. We love the enhanced pedestrian crosses. We don't have enough of the pedestrian crosses. So it's really hard to say this piece of the whole plan because you don't know if the rest is going to support what the development community would want to. I can personally say I don't like overlays. We eliminated every one of them that we had where I used to work because the development community did not like any overlays. And so we streamlined it and got rid of those because it's one more thing that a developer has to deal with. But like everybody else, giving as much freedom and opportunity to get new development, we're all for that. We're all for that. It's just depending on how it goes, are we doing something that would then cause a problem? It's so hard to know because again, I'm not a planner.
Yes, so there's a transportation analysis as part of this project. We can send that to you. It's they're taking like the existing uses and maximum potential versus what is the code. Yeah. It seems like it's going to be fine based on all of the improvements that are intended along the highway, right? Which is a lot of money, but again, previous jurisdiction I worked for, same thing, right? They were struggling, trying to figure it out. Didn't really want to play on the regional scale until they decided to play on the regional scale, change zoning, and all of a sudden transportation infrastructure money started pouring in. So if you want the money, you have to show that you're actually participating in the regional goals, right? Like housing. There's a lot of housing goals that have been put up on the city of West Linn to try to be able to meet.
I haven't read the city's housing production strategy that would have had to been submitted to the state of Oregon because all communities were required to do it. It's on my to-do list, but yes, clearly every community had to eliminate on-site parking and do a housing production strategy.
Yep, we've adopted one.
We just are heavy on housing already.
So there was a transportation study. We can send it to the group.
Does anybody want that? Transportation study?
Is it on the website?
If it's on the website, I can find it.
I don't know if it's on the website. I think that was still being
If it's on the website, I won't bother to. I'll find it.
We'll find it.
But is it one of those things that if a developer came in and they have to do a transportation study saying that?
They have to do a trip analysis. They wouldn't be doing the plan that he's talking about.
No, but I'm just wondering if it would trigger that they have to do some mitigations or.
Well, yeah, if it showed that they were gonna cause an intersection to fail and it's
Right.
scheduled for a light, then they would have to participate in the cost of installing the light.
So all of those things would still
Yeah.
apply, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was also mentioned that the developers already knew, so like the parking issue comments. No matter what zone it is, the developers, that they have to accommodate vehicles to get the usage that would fill the space.
Yeah,
Loans.
that's what, yeah, so we heard,
Requirements are not.
yeah, so when we did the CFEC parking study, or addressed the CFEC parking mandates, we did talk to the development community, and they all said that in a suburban environment like this, one, they would never build something without parking because people rely on cars around here, and two, they probably wouldn't be able to finance if they couldn't prove how people were going to get to the location and safe and park and patronize the businesses. And we've heard the same thing from them as we've been talking with them about this code, is that they know that they're gonna have to park it. And, some of the areas where it's smaller parcels and lots, that can be an issue. So we don't anticipate 100% of the corridors just gonna all of a sudden change over. I might not see anything for 20 years. It's just the way that's function of planning. Previous jurisdiction I worked in, we changed the zoning of their downtown in 2008. And the first actual building is now being constructed. Almost 20 years later. Takes a while for people own a business and they're getting their rent and they're paying their bills. They don't necessarily have any incentive to redevelop. So it's a long, slow burn.
Right, when our kids are on the community, they'll be the ones that are.
Well, we have those buildings that are built around a little tiny, straight up.
Any other thoughts on the zones? Zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 as it relates to height, or just a need for the focus areas?
I know before, there were some communities like round tables or whatever. Did those folks, did they get to see the transportation plan prior to this, kind of being this far along the process?
We need to defer to Linn. Yeah, again, so I'm just now trying to catch up. So I don't know exactly everything that happened up to this.
So who?
So my understanding, and I might be correct, that like a year or so, maybe longer, there were community roundtables that came together to talk about this plan. At that portion, did they get to see and understand the transportation plan? And did they get to see all of that so that they understood prior to this plan getting to where it's currently at?
Those community open houses fed the information that's in the plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, I think that's a good way to answer it. Is that was part of what do you want to see, and then the fact check was, if this is what the community wants, then does the transportation network actually support that?
So then it came after. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn.
Anything else on the zones or focus area? Okay, so then we move into pedestrian and bicycle enhancements. We've got a few items there. We've got the pedestrian signals, enhanced crosswalks, beacons, mixed use shoulder usage, the bike lane, some ways to handle the bike lane. So this is an opportunity to share, I'd say, thoughts on any of these items, pros or cons, rather than each one individually.
What does mixed use shoulder?
Probably like small. As a mixed use. Older,
Multi-use.
multimodal.
It would be multi-use. So that, you can have bikes or pedestrian.
One lane's for bikes and one lane's for people, and
A multi-use would be
One lane.
one lane for one.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
So like going up salon.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not for cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would support all of those. I would say, well, it can be separated or shared in a mixed use. I don't think you're gonna have large amount of pedestrian, traffic that you needed. You couldn't have a shared pathway for bikes. I don't think there'll be so many bikes and so many pedestrians.
You never know.
That's your hope for growth.
Mhm.
Is that you want it so busy with everybody living, working, doing everything in
Nobody's
that
commuting
area.
on that road anymore, at some point, potentially. It's just too slow.
That's your hope.
That's the hope, yeah.
Only thing that comes to mind for me is like, I feel like we didn't do a very good job future proofing Solomon's mixed use, multimodal path. You have to cross the street at the bottom,
Yes.
then you go up, but then you cross the street at Green Street. Then you keep going, you cross the street again to get back across the other side to Solano so you can get back to the sidewalk. And if we ever do need to redevelop or make that street wider, you need that bike loop. It would have made more sense to me, put that on that side.
So back to Highway 43,
So-
the intent with the concept plan is sidewalk, cycle track, planter strip through the whole corridor. So you'd have 10 bike facilities from LO to basically the market of choice there.
Which I support that. I was just saying, make sure it's like future proof, so we're not sitting back.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said,
Having to
the
redo
intent
the
is both sides, the entire.
I would say if you have, is what you just described is you have the highway, you have a planter strip, you have the bike lane, and then you have pedestrian sidewalk. Is that what you just said?
Yep.
When you have the infrastructure where you have a buffer between the highway and the bike lane, if you brought in the bicyclist group, they don't like that because it gets dirty and they don't want to ride in that bike lane. And so you either buy a piece of equipment that fits that little,
Which they had.
because it's an operational cost then, because it's hard to keep those clean.
Yeah.
And so, again, after hearing the bicyclist group, they don't like them. They think that they're dangerous. And I know where I worked, they had to buy a piece of equipment that was small to be able to keep those clean because bicyclists wouldn't use them. So that's the one. negative.
So again, on Highway 43, it's street, curb, planter strip, cycle track, sidewalks. They're completely off of the street. It's
Yeah,
not-
but no,
I also want to interject here is that the profile of Highway 43 has been already decided in the 2016 concept plan. We're not talking about road infrastructure here. This plan isn't anything about road infrastructure. These questions are kind of out of context, but the pedestrian enhancements are about coming to the corridor from the neighborhood. So like we'd have a mixed shoulder from the corridor, and these separated lanes are coming to the corridor and crossing over the highway. The concept plan talks about, and that's already been decided and voted on. And so that's an approved plan. So we're not changing we're not here to change that, re-engineer that.
Thank you for that information. That helps.
But it's true, we had that when we designed the land. Because you don't want to use it like it should be. It's just a budget.
That's a bicycle.
It's still safer for kids and everything like that.
Those are fantastic.
So the next item on the list are the allowed uses, amusement enterprises, community recreation, open space, multifamily residential.
You know how I feel about that one.
And any additional uses that are currently not allowed or proposed. So we have, and Shannon, thank you for putting your thoughts, and that is a email that she sent with a bunch of information out, which if you don't have it, I'll make sure you get a copy. And those are her thoughts on that. So thank you for doing that. Outside of that, then, so that's been addressed, additional uses that are currently not allowed or proposed that we might want to consider for the corridor.
I support all the other ones.
Yeah, me too. Great. Christie or Lance? Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about the open space? Is that only requirement if it's 2 acres or more? A redevelopment, did I read that someplace?
No, as far as permitted use, right now, like parks and open spaces are not permitted in the general commercial zone. So it's just intending to close that gap, in case you want to have a public park or public amenity associated with development. It's an outright permitted use, and it doesn't go through it.
So a privately owned park, not a city owned park?
No, it would be public.
We have some properties along along the highway corridor that, you know, if associated with a development could make a really nice, you know, area of commercial with some residential above and a nice, you know, pedestrian area. So
Like a plaza or something.
yeah, so there's,
The intent is to make it so you can just do it and not have to go through conditional use process.
But it would be part of private developer, not necessarily unless you donated it to the city and they're not gonna want that cost. It would be a private developer's responsibility to take care of whatever.
Well, as Lynn was saying, I think that it was more focused on city-owned properties that adjacent to the corridor that could be used as amenity for the adjacent development.
like, next to Walmart, there's a big ravine, and that area is owned by the city. And that could be improved to have like a walking path through it. You know, I actually don't know anything about the site. I haven't been there. It might be too steep, but that they could have a walking path up, you know, through the area, through the riparian area for, you know, and a bench.
But the city couldn't do that now, is what you're saying. They could have put a path through their own piece of property, like what you just said. I've been trying to figure out if it's a city-owned piece of property, why they couldn't.
I have to get back to you on that, but I think it's really more focused on. So if you wanted to develop a park or an open space, it's a conditional use. It might not even be permitted in general commercial zone, or if it is, it's a conditional use. So it's a whole other hoop to jump through. So the intent is just to make it so if the city wants to build a park, build a park. Or if the private developer is going to donate land to the city for space, but then we could accept it and just without going through a commission process. Yeah, again, just trying to get out of the way.
I'm gonna skip one section, come back to pedestrian. We're gonna go to pedestrian improvements. That includes building entrances, State Street, walkway and trail access, plaza and gathering spaces, parking on side or rear of building, reducing setback requirements.
Love the parking behind the building. Me too. Love the buildings right up on the sidewalk. That's a plus.
On the plaza and gathering spaces, is that saying that they would be required to have them, or?
Yeah, I
I think they're incentivized.
Incentivized?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of it has to do with the CPAC changes too.
Okay.
A lot of this is around having to meet the state requirements for accommodating pedestrian activity.
Okay, as long as it wasn't like feeling like it would be a hindrance, right? I was for it. Yeah. Yeah, so support all of those.
Any thoughts to the contrary of any of the items or thoughts? Thank you. Okay, and then the last item on the agenda today is development and design standards. It includes height. 45 feet is current proposing an extra 10 feet, 55 feet. Having building design standards to include porches, stoops, window coverage, building recesses, pitched roofs, dormers, awnings, overhangs, the gamut of things. So thoughts on any of those items?
So what I don't see on here is what Chris brought to us was the stepping. The lower
The setback,
stepping.
the setback is in there, so yes, we would, that what's currently being proposed in this draft is, so you have taller building towards the highway and a step back towards the neighborhood. So that's a building going down, not a setback, but a step.
Smaller, the shorter building near, closer to the residence.
Yes.
Yeah, that's consistent with the existing.
One, and maybe it's an unintended consequence, but if you think of the, I think it's called the Montague or Montague, or the one that apartment that's over by the Tiger Pasture. 17, they just, they're fetching it up. They built it like a box because the design to make it anything else was prohibitive cost-wise. So if we're gonna put design standards in, it might be prohibitive for just being aware that the more standards we put in, it could cause the cost to go up and it would be detrimental to what we're actually trying to accomplish.
Sure.
Yeah, in the conversations we've been having with the development community, instead of describing what they do, and menu of things that they could choose what they. Yeah, you have to implement 8 of these 16 items instead of prescribing exactly what the voting must look like and let the architect actually do the job.
I mean, I like them, these ideas, because it would kind of prevent them from being this boring box them. They have stoops or.
Yeah, that's the intent is
Yeah.
to, yeah, not just have a big blank wall.
Yeah. So I would say doing something like that where do at least 5 of these things or whatever would be good. So that it's not prohibitive, but it doesn't end us up with the box.
Mhm.
That was the word I was. Okay. I was like, that was that way.
So Shannon's concerned about not giving up what you currently have in code that says it has to be, my understanding of mixed use, commercial on the bottom and housing on the top, or anyway, so many of, these documents, that's what they say multiple times in there, that the goal is to have ground floor, commercial, retail. So I guess as somebody who's new coming into this, I was surprised based on it being so kind of in your face that that's what, at some point, somebody really wanted to make sure that there was retail on the ground floor, why it's being proposed to have it be 100%. I can tell you from experience that developers don't want that retail on the ground floor. And what will happen is that they'll get, no offense, an insurance company or somebody that's 8 to 5, not a retailer, not something that we would want to go in the evening to do because they don't want to sit on there with vacancy. So kind of the other piece of that is if you can do something that requires somebody, if they have vacant space on the ground floor, as soon as they have vacant space, they have to prepare some kind of plan and give it to the city as to what they're going to do to address that vacancy. You have so many years, so it's not sitting there for forever. I researched this where I work. You can find some codes in some cities, but I dealt with that because I had somebody that in 23 years had vacant space and they never, ever put a tenant in it. And it was really hard for the whole community, where I wanted a code that would, I mean, it's always the incentive is we want you we don't want to be a barrier for who you want to put in there. You can put in whoever you want. But on ground floor, we really wanted somebody that would be open more than the 5 o'clock. So you have that energy and you have the sidewalk vibrancy. So I was just curious as to why there was so much talk about wanting to have that ground floor commercial, and yet it's not necessarily.
I mean, that's a really good point. It's kind of like a bait and switch. You're gonna tell the public, well, this is what it's gonna look
We're
like.
asking
And
the
then
question.
Yeah.
Right, and
you're
we
gonna
have
say,
to-
no, we want 100%.
I was surprised at how it was kind of right there in the first, I think on the 3rd page, we want, retail and.
Yeah, I get you, but we're just asking the question, right, to make sure that we've got a basis.
Developers don't like it, I don't know.
Is that?
Developers don't like it.
Which is why you have to codify it, because otherwise that's all you'll get.
We also, again, currently permitted right now, it's never happened, so. We have to.
Yeah, it's in
we
there
have-
right now.
We have to account for that, right? It's like, well, if it hasn't happened under this code, what's gonna make it happen here? The code. So, but anyhow, we're just asking the question. I believe that. Yeah, this code so many times.
Well,
Can't remember.
the code as it's presented right now
It's
that
like
you gave it says it's
25%.
allowable. So that tells me that's what you guys are going.
I thought it said 25% of it had to be.
No, it says 100%. I mean, it doesn't say 100%, it says it's an outright use. So if it's telling you it's an outright use, then that
Right,
means.
but-
No, basically what is being proposed is that you don't have to have it. You can put ground floor retail, or you can have housing on the ground.
Right, that's how the code is written right now.
That's what's being proposed.
That's what's been proposed. So that's why I feel like the bait and
Yeah.
switch, because you tell the public this is what it's gonna look like with mixed use, and then you're putting in the code that it doesn't have to.
So during the options that you have for like, if you're going to do a roof, you can do these, or if you're going to do landscaping and a parking lot, you can do these. Have those all been reviewed with the development community? Because the eco roof being part of the landscape requirements, I thought that was interesting. It's not in the roof one, even though it's tile roof. I thought that was pretty interesting. But nobody's gonna choose that one. Nobody's gonna choose that as one of their 4 to put a tile roof on it. Or probably not a dormer either. The cost associated with it, but the eco roof, I thought was interesting because it's tied to meeting one of the 4 or whatever criteria under landscapes. That was in this one that she gave us. This has a lot of standard stuff in it.
Yep, that's what Lynn's looking at. Yeah, so we have been talking to the development community, they've been giving us their feedback on this code. So again, we're trying to get as much feedback as we can, revise the code, and then take it out and start shopping it.
As Shannon's pointing out, and actually insured a building, it was an apartment and it had the requirement for the retail space, and they just paid 1 little coin for it.
Yeah, so right now the code says no more than 75% of the frontage on Highway 43 may be occupied by ground floor street level dwelling units. So right now it's saying 25% of the ground floor has to be commercial use.
Okay, so then if you're looking at this code and it's saying the following uses are permitted outright, and it says multifamily residential, shouldn't that be?
Gets rid of the 25%.
It should have as long as 25%,
All right, we'll look into that.
because otherwise if I'm a developer, I'm saying, well, it's outright. Doesn't say that it has any. So. I fight all these lawyers. So I gotta think like they think.
Well, you also have to step back and think about the goal of this project also.
The goal was to keep commercial.
Right,
That
but
was
if
the
the
goal.
if the goal is redevelopment of the corridor, then
Or commercial.
we have to create a code that's going to entice that to happen.
Right, which is what,
Otherwise, we can just leave it alone. That's what we want.
yeah, but again, we still want to make sure we're getting a lot of what that we need.
Well, so But some of the logic that we've heard about that is it will happen organically. Like if, you know, on these smaller lots, maybe, maybe we're thinking is that that's not really an effective, you know, 4-story commercial building, or even you know, maybe it wouldn't be big enough for a ground floor commercial. So you put maybe a multi-family in there, and then the other areas around it all of a sudden become more desirable to be redeveloped as commercial, because they have those people who will go to the restaurants, the coffee shops and things like that. So that it's not exclusive, and that it will create vibrancy rather than
I can see that argument, but then you could maybe put in the code by the size of the lot.
well, that's
Because you wouldn't want to see
that's again
Walmart developed into all housing, because that's what you would get.
well, I don't,
We can look at that.
yeah, do that.
Because I'd be okay if it was, I understand those small parcels, maybe no pencil. But what I don't want to see is Walmart become all housing and zero commercial.
Right. Commercial is more, well, commercial and, you know, should be worth more to the developer to, in the end to, for revenue. So,
All right, well, that's good feedback.
Well, can I say something also? Like, I also wouldn't want to see even like the smaller area, like the Bolton Plaza, just turn into all multifamily houses. Because currently, right now, we have shops in that neighborhood that the community is able to go to and use. Um, so it's just a shame if we lose commercial space really anywhere in Westland because we have so little of it.
Lance, do you have anything you want to add to? I think we've gone through every item on the list, and so this would be a good opportunity for. It's also our time to share anything we wanted to bring to the meeting. So, any final thoughts or questions, and anything you want to share? Okay, Chrissy, anything else? Anything you want to share on any topic?
No, I think this has been a good conversation. I think a lot of important things have been brought up. I agree a lot with Shannon and what she has to say. I'd like to see, um, I'd like to not see us lose commercial space in an area where we have so little of it. And I hope that that won't be a barrier to new development, because I know that's important, but that's just kind of how I feel.
What you seen?
Nope, I'm good as long as it says the 25% and that's solid. I'm good compromise.
This one.
I was just thinking that we know, so, they're closed, we don't have any influence over what the school district does, but we know the school district's going to be closing to Bolton. Various schools. This currently zoned as residential, and it makes sense to expand that in Bolton area that include the Bolton primary school property for intended uses, so if they do sell it, the developer could come in and make that commercial, as well as opposed to 100 new homes right along Highway 43. Just redraw the line. Like, okay, we know the school being closed now. It's just all uses in there that include not just 150 new homes stacked on top of each other.
We can have that conversation with the school district. I do know that if they were ever wanting to reopen it, then a school would have to be a permitted or allowed use in the commercial zone. That's typically the case.
Right, aren't one that you grandfathered in.
Once the use, according to our code, well, it all depends on how we set this code up. Because we've been having conversations with the property owners, and developers around creating non-conforming uses. And the burden it puts on the business owner if they're trying to go out and get a loan and they're a non-conforming use. So we're still working through how we're going to deal with that. Currently, our code says if you cease in use for 1 year, and it was not conforming, then you have to comply with the new code.
Any new developments.
Yeah. So like the school being in a residential zone, it's conditional use. It's not permitted in it. So that would be, again, we could.
Or could you allow it?
We could allow
Allow a
it.
school.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why a school
Oh, yeah.
would be allowed in commercial, like if it was a daycare
All the daycares get it out of school.
or but like it could be like a language school or, you know, like
Well,
those kind of.
We have.
Right, those are the
schools
private
and
schools, yeah.
We've had conditional use for schools.
Yeah, so yeah, private schools, so not public. Typically not public. schools. But anyhow, we
My
can.
tip is to exclude the school district from ever utilizing the property, but if they were to get rid of it, including zoning that would encourage more retail and commercial development.
Yeah, we
Right
can,
along that border that we're doing.
we can broach that conversation with them. And then, then the other option, other option would be if they do want to dispose of it at some point, do a zone change.
You good? This one?
That's a good point.
Yeah, that was all. I was just thinking, I was looking at the map and thinking, well, if they're gonna pose it and we're doing all the stuff now, when kind of addresses that checkerboard thing that we're talking about, because you have the market choice and then you got this whole pocket of residential that's being used as commercial, and then you got the school and you have both.
I think the only one that I struggle with is the 5 stories in all the zones equally. I think that could be problematic. And I think at the last meeting, I asked you about if a balcony, and I know that weather protection is important, but from the developer point of view, is that an encroachment over the sidewalk that they have to deal with to put the balcony and the awnings and stuff? Because again, it's like the sign code. Those are the things that.
Yeah,
That's a good idea. Yeah, because we're saying 0 setback. And then
yeah, I did have that. Notes. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, and we have been discussing the different properties in different areas. The heights. So getting back to Kristen's point, the Bolton area. So, each of the, every individual property is unique. So we're take a good hard look at it. Does it make sense? Does it 5 feet everywhere? Some of the areas a little more protections what exists.
And you said 55 was 5 stories, right?
Well,
If they put parking in,
Or if they put commercial in.
maybe, but
501.
they might need actually 60 feet to get 501, just because of the building code.
You look at the that in real estate. Like the perfect site for something other than 2 1-level buildings with all that parking for one real estate company. Every time I drive by there, it was the perfect site for something. It's level.
At least they made it much better looking than it was before.
It looked better. It looks better. But opportunity site, that
Yeah.
was that.
So I will say, as far as the 25%, could we look into incentivizing for more commercial for taller?
Oh, you mean like saying like 100% ground floor retail and you can go to 65 feet?
Yeah.
And they would be opposed to the 65 feet?
No, I don't have a building height per se.
I don't need formal, really.
I know a lot of residents do.
I like the paying
Right.
attention to the side of the street and the topography. I like the concept of that, but I also.
I have a step back.
All sort of residential.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, when you play ball, we gotta kind of play ball.
I like the incentive piece.
Good idea. Lynn, who's behind the words?
It's money to.
That's Kevin Bonington.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Never mind.
But did he have anything to say? You can check with them if they have anything to say.
No, that was next. That's next. So my thought, my comment before we get to staff comments and wrap up is minutes. So what's the roadblock in minutes right now for getting those out? What's the obstacle? I don't understand. I think as far as just getting them out for that, the next meeting to approve them. Is it this technology or is where are we not connecting on minutes? Christy, do you know?
Christie?
Did you not get them to use that?
So
Yeah, I
I'm
have not received
I'm
it.
so sorry. I did not get the minutes in for this week, but the last minutes should have gotten in from last month.
Okay, can you resend those to me? Because I don't recall
Yes.
getting them.
Yeah, that was last month that I sent those in. So you should have had those.
Okay, could you send those in as a Google Doc? Because we can't receive Google Docs.
No, it should have been as a Word, but I can
Okay, yeah.
resend it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
January, February.
Yeah, so she's talking about she had January done, but February's not done yet. She'll have those at the next meeting. And Christy, if you need anything from on that technology wise or anything, just let Lynn and I know, or let Lynn know, and we can work on that.
No problem. I'll make sure I have all of it just squared away for next month so that we're all caught up. It's been kind of a crazy month this last month.
Thanks, Christy. Lance, did I see you have something real quick before we? So staff comments from staff. Lynn, do you have anything?
I don't have any comments.
But you, Darren, anything you want to wrap up on?
No, thanks for your feedback.
Counselor, you have anything? Either, there's two.
What's up, folks? How are we? Yeah, we had our retreat last week, where we don't actually go anywhere. We sit in the council chambers by law. But it was actually really, really wonderful. I think we came to a lot of good conclusions, and got on the same page about how we're gonna approach the financial matter over the next year. I would just say stay tuned. You're going to start seeing and hearing quite a lot about it in the next few weeks. And the goal is going to be to engage everyone in the community, literally everyone. Having an opinion right now is really the only thing you need. Whether it's informed or not informed, we're just trying to hear from everyone as we begin this process. So there will be a lot of platforms and tools we'll be using to accomplish that. And we'll take the conversation from there about what we want the city to look like going forward and what our expectations are. Kind of very much in line with how like a family would sit down and talk about what their finances are and what they prioritize and all of that. So stay tuned, basically. That's what I got.
Thank you. We will stay tuned. Councilor Broner, anything you want to add before we conclude tonight?
You're on mute if you're trying to talk. He's not there.
Okay. Okay, we're past our 7 o'clock, and I think going forward, let's just do a standing 7:15 probably. That's pretty consistent, right, with what we've been doing. So meeting is adjourned at 7:19. Thank you all for your time today. Thanks for showing up. That was great. Yeah, it was good to see you,
Thank
Russ.
you.